What up, IDS Mob? It's your boy, HarryWilmington here. And today we're going to be talking about 6 lessons to learn about dating and about women from Chris Brown. Now, for those of you who don't know who that is, and I'd be surprised if you don't, Chris Brown is a famous singer/rapper, and he's had a few incidents in the past involving women, involving alleged assaults. And so there was a recent person that came forward and said that she was assaulted sexually by him back in 2020. All right. And recently that was proven to not be the case. Now, why do I do these kind of stories on this program? Because this is the show about dating, and my general feel in terms of how I view women and how I think about them is that the majority of women out there are kind and caring and have a good head on their shoulders. And on the off chance that you happen to connect with a woman and you guys go out for a while or you guys hook up for a while and then there's a breakup that occurs, the majority of them, just like when you get broken up with and it hurts your feelings and you feel sad for a bit, a majority of women will go through those same feelings, but that'll be it. They'll go through the feelings of it, they'll eventually get over it, and then they'll move on. But there are some women out there that when they're not getting their way in a relationship, they're not able to completely get the guy that they want, or for whatever reason, communication breaks down and it's not to her liking, there are women out there that will do things to try to ruin your reputation or just to retaliate against you for hurting their feelings emotionally. And so you as a guy, need to be mindful that those kind of women actually exist, but also within those kind of incidents, even though it's very easy to put the blame on the woman and what she did against you or whatever, you have to look at what things early on did you not suss out, what red flags did you miss, and did you do a proper job of fully vetting a person before bringing them into your circle, before hooking up with them, and then suddenly these things happen and you're surprised. But what things could you be doing early on to either prevent this kind of stuff, to avoid these kind of women, or what things should you be doing during the course of interacting with a woman so that way you are protected? Because these things are all very, very important. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually go over this case, and then from that, we'll go into the lessons that you can learn from this thing, okay? On January 27th, 2022, that's this year, more than a year after the alleged incident, the woman filed her $20 million claim in Los Angeles Superior Court and said that Chris Brown offered her a mixed drink in the kitchen of Diddy's Star Island mansion. After they discussed her music career, Brown is accused of offering her, quote, tips about starting a career in the music industry, end quote, before he allegedly filled up her cup again. At that point, she became, quote, disoriented, physically unstable, and started to fall in and out of sleep, according to the lawsuit. Brown then allegedly led Jane Doe down a hallway into a bedroom where he allegedly closed the door and blocked her from leaving the room, the complaint charged. The lawsuit alleged that Brown, 32, then undressed and physically assaulted the woman, pouring himself inside of her and saying, quote, he was done. The following day, according to the complaint, Brown allegedly demanded that Jane Doe take Plan B. So that's what the suit claimed. And obviously, given how much people know about, Chris Brown's previous history with other women, it's very easy to see why this would happen, because she knows that if she says, hey, Chris Brown assaulted me, the majority of the world is going to believe her. Plus, there's this narrative going around these days, the whole thing of believe all women, whereby anytime, it's believed that anytime a woman comes forward with some kind of case against a guy, the default is to just automatically believe what she's saying, because to be fair, in the past when things actually have happened, women were not believed, and then it come to find out later, like, oh, these things actually happened. So it's almost like a way to make up for lost time. But as you can see, there's downsides to that too. You can't go from like never believe women to believe all women, because in this country, you have this whole thing called the legal justice system and the whole like, you're innocent until proven guilty. But in the court of public opinion, more often than not, if a woman like this is coming forward and saying this about a guy, more often than not, she's gonna be believed. And that means if you're the guy in the situation, you're gonna have a very, very hard time proving otherwise. Now you could say, I didn't do the thing, she's making it up, but more people are gonna typically lean towards the side that she's saying, okay? So just be aware of that as a guy. Now, what saved Chris Brown from this thing going further in court? Well, here's the interesting thing, okay, is that he had a bunch of text messages from her and a voice message from her that basically were so damaging, her lawyers actually dropped her as a client. And so I'm going to just go through some of these text messages right now. I'll put them up on screen too, okay? So first off, you see in this one over here, she's clear. They blanked out a lot of these pictures, but she was sending him a bunch of nudes prior to them hooking up, okay? So then he mentions to her, and he did say in the text, hey, you should take a plan B. I don't like talking on phones about stuff like that. I'm just being proactive. And then she says, oh, okay, I'll get one. And then he says, I definitely didn't finish inside of you. I was just really faded, so I wanted to be sure. Then she says, okay, babe, that's fine. Then she says, I want to F you tonight at midnight. And then a few minutes later, she texts him at like 11:27 in the morning saying, hey, where you at? No response. She texts later on at 4:17 saying, bae, with a sad face. So then she sends him a nude picture a couple days later and then says, hey, it's so-and-so, this is my new number. And then he texts her back on January 2nd saying, new number, that was fast. Then she texts afterwards saying, yeah, since I'm in LA right now, I got to get right. And then she asks if he's in LA. He says, yeah. He says, yep, where you at? She says, home, I live in Hollywood. He says, word, let's link later today. She says, okay, bet, your place or mine. He says, mine, probably. So this is a conversation that happened 1 or 2 days after the alleged physical sexual assault happened. Clearly in these texts, not only does she not sound upset, she's sending him news. She's trying to spark up a thing. She's coming to him saying, hey, where you at? I want to hook up. Let's do some stuff. So nowhere in these texts does it look like she got assaulted unless she's just hiding it really, really well. Continuing on, so then they talk about getting some E and bringing it for their get-together. And then, so they hook up, and then a few days later, she hits him up again. WID, what are you doing? And she doesn't hear back, and that's at 7 p.m. on the 11th. On the 13th, he hits her up again. She hits him up again with a little sad face. And then he hits her back, what up? I had some stuff to handle yesterday. And then she says, where you at right now? He says, why, what's up? She says, I wanted to come over, LOL, I'm bored. And then she says, make some time for me tonight. And at this point, he's not responding to her anymore, okay? So then a few days later, she texts him and says, sorry, fell asleep. And then she says, and no, I'm on my period. So I guess it means they can't hook up because she's on her period. No response from him. So then she says, and I have a question. Do you just want to be effing me, or can we hang out like on some chill stuff during the day? I know you be busy and it's cool if you just want to bang. I just want to know my role with a sweaty face. And then no response. So then she texts back, okay, never mind. And this is on the 23rd. On the 27th of January, 2021, she sends him another nude pic. And then she texts him, what are you doing, bae? No response. So jump to February 7th. She texts him, are you up? Nothing back. So go to February 20th. She says, I'm coming home with you tonight. We at the same party, LOL. So I guess they were at the same party. I don't know if they hooked up or did whatever, but like there's no response at this point from him on any of these texts. So then she says, where you at? Nothing. She says, I'm sorry, I'm high as F. I just wanted to come over, and no response. And then she says, but good night. So then fast forward to April 4th. And she says, where you at? Can I come over? No response. Next thing is a text on May 5th. Says, happy birthday, babe. No response. May 7th comes. Where's your skate party tonight? So I don't, based on these texts, I can't tell if that maybe like she was texting him and then he was giving her phone calls. Like that's not really known here, but it seems like he was ignoring her or at this point just didn't want to consistently text her for whatever reason. Anyway, so that was May 7th. The next text that she sends is on June 27th. And she says, will I ever be able to see you again? Sad face. No response. So then fast forward to August 23rd and she sends him another nude pic. And the text says, missing you. You were honestly the best, D I've ever had. I just want it again. And then she texts, why are you playing with me, LOL. So at this point, he's no longer responding. So here's where the Demi Evidence comes in also. Aside from these texts that don't sound like she's upset at all about any kind of physical assault, but is actually trying to consistently get with him, here is the actual voice message that TMZ was able to be nice enough to play for us. So this is a fair usage play that I'm doing right now, but let's listen to the audio to see just how upset she sounds about this alleged incident.
Well, what time is it? Put the time and date.
Well, you're giving me like signals. You're like reading my messages and stuff, and you haven't blocked me yet, so I'm guessing you don't hate me. I just want to see you again. I mean, just answered the phone and then you just hung up. Like, just let me know. Like, if you want me to leave you alone, I definitely will. But I really just want to with you again.
So I have to beep that last part, but she basically says, I really just want to F the S out of you again. This was sent in August, no response. So fast forward to January of this year, and she decides, you know what? I don't like the way that went down, so now I'm going to do a $20 million lawsuit against this guy because he hurt my feelings, okay? Now, again, I think the world of women, and I think that they're great. I think that you have the opportunity to be able to find plenty of women out there that are absolutely great women that would treat you right and that mean you no harm, okay? But at the same time, you gotta understand that we'll just say off the bat, like, she's a horrible person and she's putting out this false accusation, and this makes it worse because it makes it a lot harder now for other women to be believed. Because yes, it'd be nice if we could believe all women, but when women like this do stuff in retaliation for their feelings getting hurt, it makes it a lot harder for women then to be able to fight to say, please believe all of us, because these knuckleheads want to come out here and do this kind of crap, okay? But more to the point, so let's take her off the table for a second, okay? Let's look at Chris Brown. Now, you as a guy are ultimately responsible for the things that happen in your life. And so the reality is there are certain things that Chris has been doing that you need to either not be doing or be doing a better job of when you're interacting with women. Because here's the reality, okay? Is that when you first meet a woman, most of them are gonna be pretty even keel, and especially if they like you, they're gonna be kind, they're gonna be showing you all kinds of affection, they're gonna be praising you with all these words, but you don't know what that thing is gonna be that could inadvertently turn her to somebody that feels like she is now justified in doing something like this to you, okay? So here are 6 lessons that you need to know and learn from this incident, okay? Here's the first one, is that you need to be mindful of how you're interacting with the woman at all times, okay? And this goes back to you as a guy having to be in control of yourself, in control of your emotions, and knowing how to have positive interactions, even at times when you don't agree with a woman. You gotta keep it in the mind of, I gotta know, be mindful of the things that I'm saying to women. I gotta make sure that, I'm still talking to her with a level of respect. Again, you ain't gotta agree with stuff all the time, but you do need to be able to have cordial conversations. You don't need to be calling women out of their name out of pocket, calling them the B word, or, downing their ideas and saying they're not worth crap or whatever. And you definitely, in terms of the sexual realm of things, you need to be very mindful going into any kind of sexual interaction with a woman, like what that means to both of you all, okay? And I'll get into more of that a little bit later. Lesson number 2 is that just because you say or think that a sexual interaction is, quote, casual and doesn't mean anything, it does not mean that the other person is going to feel that way, okay? You might connect with a woman and think, well, hey, we're not necessarily she's not somebody I necessarily want to date. And from what I understand, she's saying she wouldn't necessarily want to date me, but we're both physically attractive and attracted to each other. So we could have some fun and it's going to be no big deal. And I'm telling you, sex is one of those acts where no matter how much you think you can be detached from the feelings and emotions behind sex and the physical act itself, it's very hard oftentimes for one or both people to do that, okay? And I'm not gonna say that it's harder or easier for women than that, because that's not the case, but the reality is that thing, oxytocin, that bonds us to people, it can make either one of you feel more things than you anticipated feeling when you go into it, okay? And so if she's feeling, she might hook up with you and you be the best D that she's ever had, and next thing she knows, she didn't think she'd fall in love with you. She didn't think that she'd have these strong feelings, but now she does, and now she's hoping you feel those same things. And when you don't, and you push her to the side, she might feel some kind of way about that, to where she wants to retaliate against you because she's feeling such emotional pain, and she wants to try to be able to help you feel the equivalent of the emotional pain that she's going through, okay? So this is why you gotta be mindful as a guy. I take it to err on the side of this, and this has typically been my MO for the most part. I'm not saying I've been perfect in this, but typically women that I have hooked up with have been women that I thought on some level I could see myself potentially having a dating relationship or a long-term relationship with, okay? Rarely have I just said, oh, there's a girl here, I'm just gonna bang her brains out and that'll be it. Like, not to say that has not happened, but it's been a rarity because I recognize from day one that, again, sex is a bonding act. And so you're not trying to be bonded with all these different people. So ideally, if you're hooking up, you're trying to do it with somebody that you can really see yourself going the distance with. Now, you might have a different opinion of that. You might think, hey, Harry, it's fine if I just hook up with a woman every weekend and it's totally fine. That's in your right. If that's what works for you, it's what works for you. But recognize that that's not gonna necessarily work for every single woman that you hook up with, okay? Be mindful of that. Number 3, don't play with women's emotions or give them the impression that you want more out of the situation than you actually want. I don't know during their interactions what Chris Brown was saying to this woman. For all we know, he could have just been upfront and say, hey, look, this is gonna be a hit it and quit it situation and that's it. But who knows? There are plenty of guys out there that also do the thing where it's like, in order to be able to get with a woman, they're willing to say whatever they gotta say to get in her pants, and then they wanna bounce. And that, my friends, is not fair to the women, especially women that are thinking this is a hookup situation, but I can see myself really liking this guy and wanting to do more than just bedroom stuff. You saw this woman, she was like, hey, I'm on my period, but I still wanna hang out. Can we just hang out? And I don't wanna just be sex to you. And so it sucks that that's how she felt, but we gotta look at his actions. Was he saying anything early on that gave her the impression that, oh, you're more special than all the other women I'm hooking up with, or I can really see us going the distance? Like, we don't know if that's gonna happen, so I don't wanna speculate that, but I'm saying you as a guy shouldn't do that. You should not be trying to give false promises or say, hey, I could see this really going the long way, and I think you're just such a great woman. Like, if you're not realistically seeing yourself possibly wifing this chick up, then don't say that to her, because it's not fair for her to get that impression, and then you don't follow through. And now she's really mad because she just gave her whole body to you under false pretenses, all right? So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is that this is a great example of why it is imperative for you as a man to do a deep dive on a woman and take your time getting to know her before trying to put the bedroom moves on her, okay? Because here's the thing, women typically do a better job than men do, in my opinion, of really taking their time to spend time with the guy, get to know him, vet him, et cetera, et cetera. Now, obviously in this case, Chris Brown's a celebrity, he's pretty well known, so I can't say that this woman necessarily did the best job at vetting him, all right? But to the point, he, of his own accord, could have had time. Like if he figured he was gonna see her multiple times beyond just his first hookup, he could have, of his own accord, been like, hey, before we start hooking up, let's come back to my place and we'll just talk for a little bit and chat and I'll get to know more about you. And he could actually hear about her, like learn about her life story, learn about her family history, learn about how she is with her friends, all these other things that are important to get an idea of. On the off chance this doesn't work out and I decide to break it off, will she go crazy? Will she start doing things that are meant to try to hurt me or harm me? And if you have enough conversations with a woman, you can learn about her history enough to kind of get an idea of okay, well, how did these previous breakups happen? Or, how does she treat her family? What does she think about her dad? What does she think about her parents? What other relationships does she have in her family that are positive ones versus toxic ones? And you learn these things by vetting them and not rushing so quickly into sex, which is good because if you find out something you don't like, you can get out before that sexual bond has been made, and that will make the emotions even harder for her if you guys break up. All right. Number 5 lesson to learn is the old adage is very, very true. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Because here's the thing, I think about the dynamics between men and women. And with men, if we get mad at another guy, men are in the habit of doing the physical harm. We're going to try to punch you, smack you, hit you. We're going to wrestle it out, some kind of thing. And I don't want to say that either way that men or women handle how they handle each other is great or not, okay? But I'm saying that's how men on average typically try to handle disagreements or disputes, or if they're really emotional about something, you'll go to the gym, try to do a punching bag or something like that, right? Women, when they get mad at other women, they are in the ruin reputation business, meaning that if you have 2 women friends and they start, duking out or having a problem with each other, this is when they start going behind their friend's back and start, telling stories about her or trying to spread rumors and lies and stuff like that, okay? And so what you can find is that if you get with a woman and she feels that she's wronged, you did some sexual stuff to her and she thought it was going to go the distance, and then you start ignoring her and you start taking away that bomb sex that she's never going to get again, this is when women will come out of the woodwork and really try to show you how mad they are in a variety of ways. It could be anything. It could be like she goes behind your back and talks to your friends and try to ruin your reputation, going to your family about stuff, trying to post things online, trying to tell her friends about stuff that's not true about you, but that's going to make her look good and have her friends behind you. Like, you don't know. But the point is, she will be there in some kind of way to really let you know emotionally how hurt she is in any way that she can, okay? And again, this is one of those things that sometimes if you do enough vetting early on, you can kind of figure it out based on some stories she's telling about her life and her past. But some women, you don't know. Like, you'll be thinking things are great, and then you just stop feeling it for whatever reason, or you break up, or you stop talking to her, or in Chris Brown's case, you just stop answering altogether. And next thing you know, $20 million lawsuit because he wouldn't talk to me, he went ghost on me, so now I gotta suddenly bring up this thing about him and just try to ruin his reputation. And women, by the way, are great at ruining your reputation, which is why you want to do proper vetting as best you can. And then you also want to do the last thing on this list, which is number 6, if at all possible. The best way to protect yourself is to keep as much evidence of your and her interaction as possible. I'm talking text messages, phone recordings, emails, anything you can keep and gather up. So that way, if she comes back in the future and tries to pit something against you, you have something you can put up. Nope. I remember I had a friend who had an ex who they got divorced, and she was trying to say that he had said some stuff and that, they were going back on the contract they signed on with the divorce and stuff like that. And so he was able to show her in the email, like, no, this is actually what's going on. Like, the thing you're saying right now is that you're trying to ruin my rep with is actually a lie, because we got all this stuff signatured on a piece of paper and an email. So try it again. And so it's important because you never know. You're thinking right now, you're using the little man downstairs as a means to try to move forward with this woman right now. And you're saying, she's so great, she's so sexy, she's so hot, she seems like an angel, she would never do anything. And guys, let's be real. We are typically in the business of really trying to think the absolute best about women, to the point where we pedestalize them and put them on this higher level and think that no woman would ever do me wrong. This woman would never, she's such a flower, she's so sweet, she would never do something, even if we broke up or stopped hooking up together, she would never be the kind of person to. And I'm telling you, rule number 5, hell hath no fury. And so that does not mean that 98% of women are like this, because they're really not. The majority of them, like I said, as much as breakups suck, the majority of them will take it on the chin. They'll cry a bunch of days. They'll go to their girlfriends and talk about it. They may try to hit you up again and try to reconnect, but ultimately, at some point in time, they'll get over it. And that is the healthiest way for anybody to get over a breakup. But there are some women out there that, on the off chance they feel that they're wrong by you, or they feel like you emotionally, made them up in knots because you hooked up with them and then walked away, or they feel like that what you did isn't right because, like I said, we're always the heroes in our own story. So she's thinking like, I'm so great, this guy should want me, but he's treating me like crap, quote unquote, simply because you don't want to talk to her, hook up with her, and she may try to retaliate, okay? But this is why it's you as a guy, it's your job to make sure you can do as much as you can to try to suss this out early on. And then even then, be mindful of how you're interacting with women, be mindful of the things you're saying to them, be mindful of getting into any sexual encounters without really having on the table what this is actually about. And then even then, I just recommend not trying to hook up with people unless you're trying to actually get with them, because that's really the more safe route to go versus like, well, I can just go to the bar and just get a girl and get a random hookup and then that'll be fine, because you don't know by doing that, you haven't probably vetted her, you don't know her history, you don't know if she's a clingy person, if she's got toxic traits about her, what her past might indicate about how she's gonna be as a person on the off chance that you decide to just walk away. And so you gotta be mindful, because when the chips hit the fan, as much as we can say, this woman is a complete jerk and a-hole for, trying to do a $20 million lawsuit against Chris Brown simply because he ghosted her, the reality is he had some control over that. He decided that he wanted to hook up with her. He decided that he wanted to do it multiple times, knowing full well he wasn't really interested in doing that, okay? So take responsibility for the parts of your life that you can control, and then when things happen out of your control, you're prepared because, again, you have evidence that you're keeping at all times, and you're not going about the world interacting with women in a way that would make them want to do something like that. So hopefully, guy, this helps you out. Now, if you want to learn how to be a better guy and how to be able to really kind of have your radar on a little bit better so you kind of don't fall into these kind of situations, go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, click on the one-on-one coaching tab, and also click on the tab where my products are to check out my various eBooks, audiobooks, and programs, all designed to help you date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/HarryWilmington. Leave a 5-star rating for this show on Apple Podcasts. And also, guys, if you want to show monetary support for me, you can go to the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com, click on the tip jar tab, and leave a monetary thank you. That's all I got. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I'll catch you guys on the next show. I'm out. Peace.